Shankaram, Siva Shankaram. In this video, we look at the Sthalapuranam of Kapaleeswarar temple, which is situated in Thirumailai or Mylapore in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. So, a very short history on Mylapore first. Now, in the 3rd century BC, the Sangham had started, and you know Ptolemy to be a very famous Egyptian mathematician who had done some travels during that day. He writes about having come to Mylapore in one of his geography books that he had written. The Pallavas then took over Mylapore or Chennai, you can say, in the 7th century, and then it went over to the Cholas, and then the Vijayanagaras took over around the 14th century. So, this is the Vijayanagara Empire, which started by Harihar and Bukkar. So, from Karnataka to Andhra to the whole of South India. Now, during the 1st century, just after Jesus Christ, I mean the 1st century AD, St Thomas, one of his apostles, had probably come over to Chennai, and they say that once he had preached his Christianity and all, he had been martyred or he had died here on St Thomas Mount. Now, people from Chennai know these places that I am mentioning very, very well. So, although he was martyred there in St Thomas Mount, he was not buried there, he was buried near the beach. So, you know where the St Thomas Basilica is as of today, he was buried there. And at that point, there was this Kapaleeswarar temple there. We'll come to how we established that fact. So, there are a few articles now in about Christianity in India, and there's one article by someone called M. Arunachalam that talks about the Kapaleeswarar temple being totally destroyed by the Portuguese. So, this was around 1566 that they say. So, Rama Raya, who was one of the last rulers, we'll say, of Vijayanagara, I mean during that period, he saved these temples around 1522 when the Portuguese actually tried to take over Chennai, and he won in those wars. And he was a very amicable person, that is a very friendly person, and he gave them some space to actually build a basilica around that St Thomas burial tomb. So, they were also building. We also had the temple, the old Kapaleeswarar temple, and there is also a fact to say that there was a Jain temple also by just beside this. Now, Ramaraya's rule fell around 1566 in the battle of Talikoti in Karnataka, and their entire royal family actually moved eastward into Andhra Pradesh. So, at that point the Portuguese actually then took over the whole of Chennai, and that's when the destruction started. So, you see Kapaleeswarar temple was actually on the shore. We will come to some proofs in a few minutes. So, the present temple that you see, which is almost a kilometer away from the beach, was said to be built by someone called Mallappa, or he is also called Mayilnattu Muthiyappa Mudaliyar, and probably he took some help from the Vijayanagara dynasty, which had moved eastward, as I said before. So, whatever they could salvage from the old temple, they took that and started building this. Now, obviously, that was not built around the same time that it was demolished. So, this was built almost 100-120 years later. So, we would say about 300 years from before today only it was being built, and even the Gopuram that you see there was built only in 1906. So, it is only in the early 20th century. And there's one interesting fact actually about St Thomas Basilica, and they say that in 2013 someone donated for a Dwajastambam which was there, and the reason why he donated was because he said his business was very flourishing because he had been visiting this church. Now, it is very much possible that the previous energy that was there, even now, even till today, continues to exist in that church. Now, although the Christians and the Catholics are doing some puja there, the energy always seems to be existing there and was never transferred to the new Kapaleeswarar temple that was built maybe about 150 years later. Because normally what they do to transfer the energy, they take that energy in a kalasam, in a pot or something, and then they do some kumbhabhishekam, etc. And then after that, that is transferred back to the idol. So, probably that was not done, and it was not taken from there and then transferred here, that is what I mean. So let's look at some of the proofs as to why I say that the old Kapaleeshwarar temple was at the spot where the present basilica is. So there are some old inscriptions in the St Thomas Cathedral, and which say that that the Kapaleeshwarar temple was there. And you remember when there was the tsunami, or when there were a few, when the sea had receded a bit, it actually showed a few carved temple stones and a mandapam. They were also seen, it seems, on the carved walls of the church, or they're still seen, I believe. And there are some Chola records in the cathedral and also in the bishop's palace, or the bishop's house, talking about the temple on the site. So that was probably Kapaleeshwaram, and about Poompavai, which we'll come to a little later. The estate to the south of the cathedral also contains some remains of the great Shiva temple. Now about 70 years ago, there were some remnants of the temple, like some pillars, etc., and some parts of the some idols that were found in the sea. And even today, there are some broken pieces of the Vinayakar idol that existed before, and that is somewhere in the estate. There is also a fragment of the Chola record that bears a picture of Lord Nataraja. Now he was called Koothandavar. Another fragment, or there was some inscription. It also talks about a Jain temple on the site, and the Jain temple is dedicated to someone called Neminatha Swami. So one of the Jain big heads. A fragment or some stone inscription also talks about a tax-free gift by Vikrama Chola. So that is about the 12th century, and it says that the tax-free gift is about a night lamp that has to be burnt for Swaramudaya. Swaramudaya means Isai Udaya, that is with Swaram, Sarigama Padanisa. Koothadum Devar. So Koothadum Devar is Natarajar. So that lamp was supposed to be lit, it seems, for Koothandavar every night. And that is also linked to the Kapaleeshwarar temple, because you know, normally in a Sivan Koil, in a Siva temple, there is normally Nataraja. But obviously the Portuguese would have cleverly changed that to say that the night lamp was actually lit for the tomb, because there are some records, it seems, in the basilica that say that from the early 16th century that night lamp was being lit. Anyway, in the Tirupugar also, Arunagirinatha talks about a shore temple. So what he says, Kaile Padi Aran Murugone Kadal Akkarai Thirai Aruge Sool. So, and then he talks about Maile Padithanil Uraivone. So you see, Kadal Akkarai Thirai Aruge Sool. So it is near the Thirai, Kadal Akkarai, on the shore, near the waves, where the waves are. He is talking about the Mylapore Kapaleeshwarar temple being there. So in the Poompavai Padigam also, which we will come to when we talk about the meaning of the song, you will understand that Thiruñana Sambandar talks about a shore temple. Now they would never talk about these in their poems when there was never a shore temple. So you see some of the proofs as to why I say that the Kapaleeshwaram temple was actually at the site of the basilica and not where it is today. So now we will come to the deities of the temple. So one is Kapaleeshwarar himself, that is a Shivalinga in the temple. Ambal, Ambal is as Karpagambal. So Karpagam or Kalpa Vriksha is a wish-fulfilling tree. So she is as a wish fulfiller. So she fulfills all your wishes. Next is Lord Muruga. So he is as Singaravelan, and Valli and Devyane are on the Airavatham, that is on the elephant, and they give their grace like that. Then there is an Ardhana Vinayaka, that is a Vinayaka who is in a dancing pose, and there is a Poompavai and Jnana Sambandar. Again, we will come to why she is there a little later when we talk about the history, some of the legends. And this is also the birthplace of Vayilar Nayanar, so one of the 63 Nayanars. So there is a Sannidhi for him as well. There is a very big Tirtham, which obviously people from Mylapore and people from Chennai would never have missed, and that is obviously in front of the temple. So some of the prayers that people do here, they normally do it for mental peace. Obviously you would go to any temple for mental peace. To just to beget a child, so they ask for such boons. Then they ask if there's any wedding hurdles, they pray for any wedding hurdles here, there is any hurdles to be removed from weddings, and for just general family welfare, and for any illnesses that needs to be removed. So now let's come to the most interesting part of this history video, which is the legends about Kapaleeshwarar. So some very short legends first. The Vedas, that is the 4 Vedas, they have worshipped Shiva here, so it is called Vedapuri. Sri Rama, during his time and before going into Sri Lanka, he has also done pujas here, so that's why it is famous. Now some of the other legends, so one is Lord Muruga and the whale. So Lord Muruga, they say, was doing a penance here, and the reason being, he before going to Surapadma, he wanted to sit here and pray to his Appa and Amma, that is to Shiva and Parvati. So Shiva and Parvati come, and then they give him the sphere or the veil, and then after that he kills Surapadma, he converts him into a peacock, and then he comes and sits here. Then Lord Indra gives Devyani to him to get married to him, and Indra has got his steed or his vehicle, that is Airavatam. So Airavatam was very loving to Devyani, so he didn't want to leave her. So Airavatam also, that is the elephant, also came along, and that's why, as I said when I said about the deities list, she and Valli sit on the Airavatam and give their grace. So let's look at the next legend, which is Shukracharya and his lost eye. So you remember from Vamana Avatar, when Bali Chakravarti was actually giving charity, Vamana had come, and that is Lord Vishnu had come as a small dwarf, and he had asked him for 3 feet of land. Now before you say okay to anything, you normally have to take some water, some jalam from a pot or a kamandalam, as they say, and then you sprinkle it to say okay, I accept it. So to do that, he takes that pot. Now Shukracharya has already warned him, saying that no, see, this is Vamana, you should not say okay to this. But he says, he hushes his guru, he says, no, I am doing charity, even if Mahavishnu comes and asks, I have to give, I cannot listen to you this time. So Shukracharya comes as a small bee, and he tries to block that spout, where the water is going to come. So then Lord Vamana, actually he takes a darbai or a grass, and he pokes that spout, tries to push out that bee, so it hits his eye and he loses his eye. So Shukracharya comes to this place to pray for his lost eye, and he gets his eye. So that's why this is also called Shukrapuri, this place. So now one of the legends as to why this place is called Mylapore. So basically Parvati and the peacocks. So Parvati once in Kailash, she wanted to find the meaning of Nama Shivaya. So she is asking Shiva, what is the meaning? And Shiva is trying to explain to her. So while explaining, her mind gets diverted. So she starts looking here and there, and she sees one peacock. So now see, normally when a guru is teaching you something and you try to distract them, they get irritated. So in that irritated moment, Shiva said, no, see, now because you got distracted looking at a peacock, you go be born as a peacock. Now people say sometimes this is a curse. Okay, fine, we will accept it as a curse. So she says, okay, I will repent for it in this place. So he sends her here, and she is born as a peahen, you can say, or a peacock. Anyway, just before going into the story, I will just try and explain very quickly what Nama Shivaya is. So the mantra that he was trying to explain, these are bijaksharas for certain elements, basically for the 5 elements, or you can say even for the chakras in your body. So what is Na? Na means the earth, or you can say the Mooladhara chakra. Now these are not the bijaksharas for the chakras per se, they are the bijaksharas only for the elements. Anyway, I am not a guru in that, so this is just information. Ma it represents the water element or the Swadhisthana chakra. Si is the fire or the Manipuraka, the solar plexus or the navel, you can say. Va Va is the air element or the Anahata Chakra, that is the heart. Ya is the ether or the sky element, and that is the Vishuddha Chakra. And then they say the Om, right? So, the Om represents this, the Ajna Chakra. Okay. So, now coming back to the story on the peacocks. So, she was born here as a peacock and she started worshipping Shiva under a Punnai tree. Punnai is just some Indian mast wood as they call it, but okay, an Indian tree, you can assume it. And even in those days, when the Jains and the Buddhists were there, this used to be called Mayura Shabda Patthana or Pattina. Now, Pattina is a Sanskrit word. So, Mayura Shabda, Mayura means peacock, Shabda is the voice or the word from the peacock, and that is why if you translate that into Tamil, that is nothing but Mayil Arparikum. Ar means sound. So, like you know that Artharum Punal Sur, like in many of the Devarams you would have seen. So, R means making sound, Mayil is the peacock. So, Mayil Arparikum Ur, and that if you, when they colloquialized it, Mayil Arpur, Mylapore, it became Mylapore. So, now because she did penance here, she got the grace of Lord Shiva and her curse went away, and she stood there as Karpagambal, because she had done so much of penance that she got that post and she was a wish fulfiller. So, that is why Ambal is called there Karpagambal. Now, next is one of the important legends of this place, Kabali and Brahma and his creation role. So, why is this place basically called Kapaleeswaram, or why is the Ishwaran called Kapaleeswarar? So, before that we need to understand a very small fact about Lord Brahma. So, Lord Brahma was initially he was the creator, he is the creator of the world. So, he had 4 heads. Now, they say the 4 heads are because of the 4 directions. So, at that point he had only sons, so he did not have a daughter. So, from his mind he creates a daughter and she comes out. Now, because he has never seen a daughter before, he has never seen a woman before, suddenly he gets that lust, you can say. He tries and he goes behind her. So, whichever direction she is going, he is moving his head like this, or one head is cropping up. So, that is how in all the 4 directions he gets 4 heads. Then she thinks, okay, maybe because I am in this 2D plane, I am going like this, he is able to, one head is cropping up. So, she goes over him like this, so in a different plane. Then that is why one head grows from him from here. Now, because he has got so much of lust, his sons, they think, why is this guy having so much of lust? So, they pray to Lord Shiva. Now, Lord Shiva comes out as Bhairava, and then he comes and decapitates him. That means what? He comes and removes that head from Brahma. And then you know the story that he has got that Kapalam with him, he has got that head. So, Kapalam in Sanskrit means the skull. So, he is holding that. Then Bhairava roams about, he goes to Kashi, he atones his sin, and that is where his curse goes away in Kashi. Okay, then you can ask me, he has gone to Kashi, what has that got to do with this place? Okay, so now Brahma has lost his head. So, he is now understood from Shiva that okay, I should not have done this. His creation role is also gone along with that head, everything is gone basically. So, now to atone his sin, Shiva sends him here. He says, you go here and pray. So, Brahma probably creates that linga. We do not know who has created that linga, because they say the linga is Swayambhu. So, we will assume that Brahma created that linga. Now, you must remember one thing. In all the places that we have ever said that Brahma has worshipped Shiva, Shiva gets the name of Brahmapureeswarar, right. So, you know in Sirgadi, Sattainadar Koil also he is called Brahmapureeswarar. In another temple we have said before also he is called Brahmapureeswarar. But here why does not he get that name? To understand that, we need to understand what those 4 or 5 heads represent. So, you know when I said Shatarupa, that is the daughter who is produced. Now, she is called Shatarupa, that is she keeps on taking different rupa. because what they say is she kept on changing her form and Brahma also kept on changing his form. So, if she was the female person of that form, he was the male person, male form of that animal, we can say, and that is why he kept on going behind her and following her. So, when goddess takes these forms, the heads that come out of this are basically your memories, your desire and your knowledge. And the last head, that is the fifth head, is the ego. Here you can call it the lust. So, now when that ego is shed, is gone, Brahma loses his identity. So, Brahma loses that role as well. So, that is why he is never called Brahmapureeswarar, because there is no Brahma. Brahma does not exist, he has lost his position. And the person who removed him from that position or removed his identity is Kabali. And that is why the linga here is called Kapaleeswarar. So, that is why here the importance is given to the Siva or to the Bhairava who removed Brahma rather than to Brahma who worshipped the Shiva. So, this is why he is called Kapaleeshwarar and not Brahmapureeswarar. So, let us look at this entire story in a different form. What do I mean? So, they always say that when Brahma was produced, Narayana, he is produced from Narayana's navel. So, Narayana was sleeping till then, and for some reason when Narayana wakes up, Brahma also comes out. So, Narayana is our Jivatma, is our soul that is residing somewhere in the ether. Once the soul wants to come to the earth or wants to take a body, you can say that the Narayana is waking up. So, it is searching for a Brahma that has to be created, that is for a body. Now, the Brahma till then is in a yoga nidra, that is in the mother's womb also, you can say. You can either say the 9-month preparation period, or you can say even before that it is in the yoga nidra state. Once the Brahma comes out, once the baby comes out of the mother's womb, the soul comes and gets attached, or at whatever point it is attached, the yoga nidra, that is the Devi yoga nidra, converts herself to yoga maya. So, once he is out, the goddess envelops him, envelops that entire Brahma, and here she is called Usha. So, that Shatarupa that I spoke about, she is initially called Usha. So, Usha is the dawn. Now, once Usha comes out, okay, she grows and she takes a number of rupas, a Shatarupa, but initially when she is Usha, she gives you certain heads, she gives you some memories, she gives you some desires, she gives you the presence of knowledge, she gives you some knowledge. So, Usha, Shatarupa, so as you are growing, you get all this or you acquire all this, you start acquiring all these heads. So, now you are filled with 4 heads. As you keep growing, say more than teenage, once you cross teenager and you are an adult, you start getting the 5th head, that is your ego. At that point only, you need to take to Kabali, or you need to start taking to Shiva. Not at that point, I mean you can take even before that, I am not saying that you should take only at that time. But when you take to Kabali or to Shiva very seriously and try the path to self-realization, that is when he tries and helps and cuts that ego. So, cutting that ego is the most important point. So, cutting that 5th head or cutting that 5th Brahma head is very important towards the path of self-realization. So, let us go to another very famous legend, the resurrection of Poompavai, which is why this whole temple became very famous at that point also. So, Poompavai was a daughter of a merchant. So, he was the merchant's name was Sivanesan Chettiar, and he was part of some Alakkai dynasty, or he was from a place called Alakkai. All the Chettiars I believe were from that place. That is either in Tamil Nadu, or you can say at that point you can call it Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra. I do not really know exactly where it is, but it is in one of these places. And the girl was about 11 years of age. So, in Tamil they say Pedumbai. So, Pedumbai is about 11, you can call her, she had just attained puberty, and she goes along with her attendants to pluck some flowers because there is some Shiva puja, and maybe they were doing it every day, and she goes there at that point. So there is a snake that was coiled in one of these, jasmine is like a creeper and it grows grows a lot. So you can't really see a snake if it is there in that bush. So probably there was a snake coiled, and when she was trying to pluck, the snake went and bit her on her fingers. So I mean obviously for 11-year-old a snake bite is quite harmful for anyone, and she dies. She pretty much dies on spot because there is no cure for that at that point. And I mean a long time had been passed, so she was obviously cremated and her ashes are in the pot. Now why the ashes are just in the pot and they were not dissolved in the sea? Because Sivanesan Chettiar, he already knew the glory of Thirignana Sambandar. He was waiting for him for quite some time. So probably a year you can say before Thirignana Sambandar would ever come to Chennai, and he had staunch faith in Thirignana Sambandar that Thirignana Sambandar can actually revive his daughter. The reason he had so much faith is that he had already revived so many people before that. So he had revived the king Kun Pandyan, he had revived his hunch, he had revived him of some heat related disease. He had also revived someone in Tirumarugal from a snake bite. So he had done lot of miracles and he knew he could do it. So at that point, at that time when he was there, Thirignana Sambandar was in Tiruvattriyur. So Tiruvattriyur, Tirumailai and all this, these are all shore temples. So it's not very far, it's all along the coastline. So he invites him to Mylapore. And Thirignana Sambandar comes, so he takes this pot, keeps it in the temple. And that's when Thirignana Sambandar, then obviously he listens to the entire story from Sivanesan Chettiar. He is telling, he says that okay, don't worry, Lord Shiva will help, and he sings this entire Padigam. So this Padigam is also called Poompavai Padigam. Now once he sings this, suddenly that pot breaks. And Poompavai comes back to life, the same original form that she was. So she probably died when she was 11 or 12. So she comes out as a 11 or a 12-year-old child. Now at that time they used to have lot of child marriages. So girls and boys, they would be married around 12, 13. So Sivanesan Chettiar tells Thirignana Sambandar, can you please marry my daughter, because I always wanted that to happen. Now you have brought her to life, you please marry her. He says, no, that is not possible, because now I am Brahma, the creator. So I am her father because I have created. He doesn't even say that I have created. He says Lord Shiva only has created, but through me, so I am more the creator now. So I am the father. So I can never be her husband. Okay, so Sivanesan Chettiar says okay, Poompavai also says okay, and she doesn't get married after that. So she becomes what is called a Devadasi. Now we are not using it in the wrong word. At that time Devadasi means a Dasi to the Deva, to the god. So she used to dance only for Shiva, treating Shiva as her husband. And later on Devadasi became not a good word. But at that point in time it was a very good word, and she only had Lord Shiva in her mind, and that's how she attained the feet of Lord Shiva. Now just coming back to this pot and how Poompavai was restored to life. So it's quite unbelievable, right? I mean in this era of science that we can even assume or believe that something like this happened. So maybe some theories on it. So probably the ash has a chemical composition in it, that when you reverse it in some way, you can bring back the life, or it can be converted back into the original physical body. So it's just a way of understanding how to reverse that chemical composition. So what led to that composition, if you go back, then probably you can come back to this. Just like in Kanyakumari, Mayama Devi, she restored a dog to life when it was actually blown to pieces when a car actually ran over him. So when that siddhi she had, I don't think it is not possible that Thirignana Sambandar had the Ashtama siddhi, or Lord Shiva was easily able to convert this ash back into the body. Or maybe another theory to this, in a very probably understandable way, is you can say maybe there was a look-alike of Poompavai at that point, and at this point when Thiruñāna Sambandar had to sing this song, and Lord Shiva knew that this is going to be the time when Poompavai is going to be restored back to life. Somehow he brought this child who was a look-alike. You normally say, right, there are 7 look-alikes of a person in this world. It's possible at that point this person was an orphan, no one knew about this child, and this person looked exactly like Poompavai. At that day she was dressed up in this particular dress, and it was just a transfer of energy from the ash. So when he sang this song, the energy is basically just the soul. So you have to only bring back the soul and then put that soul back into this body. So this body was already there, the body had another soul, but the soul of Poompavai was brought back and restored and put into the new body. So when it was put into the new body, it obviously starts behaving as if it was the old Poompavai itself. The old memories come back, and what is going to be the memory of an 11-year-old? It's not going to be too much. So probably, I mean, that is just a theory. So it depends on which theory you want to accept and believe. So Arunagirinadar has spoken about this whole Poompavai story as well in one of his Tirupugars. So he says, Alakkai Vanikor Kulattil. So Vanikor Kulattil, it is that trading community. As I said, Alakkai is the place. Vanidai Uir. So Vanidai Uir is, Vanidai is this woman's Uir, the life. Meela Azhaippu, you have actually given Arul Paravu Padal Sotra Kumaresa. So he is saying, Muruga, you came as Thiruñāna Sambandar and you said this Padigam and you gave the life to Poompavai. So such is the greatness of this lovely temple, Kapaleeshwaram, Shankaram, Siva Shankaram.